Hey guys, we live in exciting times and artificial intelligence is bringing a lot of benefits to the world of photography in terms of sharpening images and removing noise and sizing them up to hitherto unimaginable dimensions. And there's been an update to several of the best known denoising apps lately. DXO Photolab 5 with its deep prime noise removal is here. TopazLabs released an update to their DeNoise AI software. And now Skylum have thrown their hat in the ring with their version of denoising software using AI, which is called Noiseless AI. And it's a paid add-on and extension as part of the excellent Luminar Neo editing software. So what I thought I'd do is put them head to head. We're going to be testing them all in RAW. Done some tests already, and you can see some of the outputs on the screen there. But what I'll do is also I'll run through all three applications very quickly, showing you how they work. They're all very simple to use indeed. So without further ado, let's get on to the computer and get these photographs denoised. So I've had a bit of fun picking out some really noisy images from my collection. Fortunately, I don't have too many, but as somebody who's been taking digital photos for a little while, I do have some high ISO photos, particularly ones I took on my Canon 550D and 7D too. And I thought I'd give this one a go. Just opened it here in Adobe Bridge, and if we zoom in, we can see there is a ton of noise in this image. It's a lovely, lovely photograph of the birds down at the river, but holy shit, that is so noisy. So that was an ISO 3200 image. What we're going to do is run this through the software. So let's just cancel out that. So let's start with the new kid on the block, Skylum's Noiseless AI. Let's open in Luminar Neo. All right, that was nice and quick. So we've opened this raw file in Luminar Neo. Now we're not going to do any other touches to improve this photograph. All we're interested in is how they deal with the noise. So we're going to go edit, and as you can see, the extensions tab here has one entry because Skylum have just started rolling out these new extensions, and the HDR thing's on the catalog screen, but Noiseless AI is here. So if I click on that, you can see we have three options. I've been testing this a fair bit, and I'm amazed this has gone for the middle adjustment. It gives you this advice. It says use middle adjustment for this image. So let's follow the advice and click middle. All right, so let's have a look at the results, and it's done a relatively good job of cleaning up that noise. It's a really difficult image to process, and of course the important thing is that we retain this detail in all the other stuff that's going on in the image. If we look in the sky, it's done a pretty good job. See, the difficulty with this is you don't want to turn it into one of those completely smoothed out kind of plastic looking photographs. So I understand that there's going to be some grain left in the sky. So I think we can do a before and after with this by clicking on the eye icon. So here's before and here is after. All right, let's get out of Luminar Neo and try this raw file in another application. So next one we'll try it with is Photolab. So we're going DXO Photolab, open this raw image up. So the first thing we need to do in Photolab is turn everything off. So let's just go to no correction. So it disables everything else because all we want is the deep prime denoising. All right, so we've turned everything off in Photolab. We've got no other adjustments running here. Here is the important tab on the screen. We've got the DXO denoising technologies, and we've got high quality prime and deep prime. So there you go. It's actually done a pretty similar job to Noiseless AI. Slightly better, I think. I'm seeing less banding. I was seeing sort of smudges and things, I think, in the Noiseless AI. I'm not seeing those in this. And the difficulty for the software, as I said, is to retain some detail in all these bushes and these structures here and the birds without turning it into some plastic horror story. But I don't think that this is truly representative of what the finished article looks like, but we can do a before and after with this slider here, so we've got before on the left and after on the right, and as you can see it's taken away quite a substantial amount of noise, and I think that will be much better again once we export this. So we'll get that exported and move on to the last of our editing software, which is TopazLabs DeNoise AI. Alright, we're back in Bridge. Let's open it in the last of our test subjects, which is Topaz DeNoise AI, and this is version 3.7, which I think is the current one. They roll out updates pretty regularly for this. So when I let the software decide which denoising profile to use, it decided that low light was the best one, and it's a fair enough choice, you know. This was quite a bit after sunset, I think, so I'm not surprised it didn't choose raw. But what we can do is click the split view and see the before and after, and I'd say this was quite possibly the most dramatic of them all. What do you reckon? I mean, there's no grain left in there at all. If we zoom in a bit, let's go into 200%, move down a bit, wait for that refresh to update. That's really quite remarkable. I'm sure you'll agree this is far and away the best of the ones we've looked at so far. It's much better than DXO Labs Deep Prime. It's better than Noiseless AI. It has not turned these into butter. It has not over processed this image. You can still see crisp edges on all of these bushes. These structures are all still sharp. But what we'll do is we'll output this to Adobe Bridge and we'll stick them all in Lightroom as well. We'll put all four on the screen and compare how they look. So in the end, I put these three denoising tools to work on 6 test images. I wanted to try them with different scenarios to see how they handled everything, and I'm really glad I did, because it was surprising just how differently they all processed everything. Let's have a look at the results. Using the recommended settings in Noiseless AI within Luminar Neo, we can see that those dune grasses are really rather blurry. Ditto the sky, and in fact a lot of the scene. DXO Photolab has done a better job than Noiseless AI, but there's still an obvious loss of detail in that dune grass, the sky and the fence posts. That brings us around to TopazLabs DeNoise AI, and for me this is clearly the best result. When you look at the detail in the grasses on the edge of the dune, only Topaz has protected the sharpness that is clear in the raw image. I don't shoot many city scenes, so I had to go a little bit back in time to find a noisy urban sample image to test the software on. Shot this particular image back in 2015 on the Gold Coast here in Australia. And it's a great test because we have buildings, we have a sunset sky, and we have foliage. Picking a winner for this photo was much harder, and I spent a lot of time scratching my chin and flicking endlessly backwards and forwards between the photos before I made a decision. And the first thing to say is that both Noiseless AI and DXO Photolab behaved too aggressively with retaining edge detail and sharpness in the image. Of the two, Photolab was slightly better than Noiseless AI, but there wasn't much in it. However, the TopazLabs render is not without its faults either. If you compare the sky and the original RAW with the Topaz output, you can see it's completely lost those orange colours in the cloudy sky. Yes, it's retained an impressive amount of detail in the buildings, the people and the foliage, but it's also greatly reduced the impact of that pastel shaded sky. So I'm giving this one a DXO Photolab because it faithfully rendered the sky without removing any of the spectrum of colours, and it's done a great job on the people and the foliage. This photo has a chronic high ISO noise issue and is, I reckon, a perfect choice for an AI-based denoise application. The machine learning should recognise that it's important to keep the birds nice and sharp because they are, after all, the subject of the photo. This was actually the closest of all the sample images. All three apps did a great job of removing that high ISO noise in the background and in retaining the colours in the clouds. However, when it came to retaining sharpness in the subject, It was actually Noiseless AI in Luminar Neo that, in my opinion, did the best job. The software balanced the removal of the noise with retaining some edge sharpness in what is a really mushy blancmange of a photo. And for second place, I think Photolab did a marginally better job than TopazLabs, but they're both a little bit too blurry for my tastes. For this fourth shot, TopazLabs did the best job of retaining detail within the image. The point of the exercise is to remove noise, and while Topaz has done a good job of fixing most of it, the resulting image is still too noisy. Noiseless AI did a better job on the cleanup, but managed to badly blur the oyster fetches in the river. When it came to actually removing the noise, Deep Prime in Photolab did the best job, but in removing the noise it also took away all of the sharpness in the oyster fetches and the mangrove bushes beyond them. So whilst this was pretty close and none of them did a sensational job, if I was forced at gunpoint to pick one, I'd go for the TopazLabs render because it's the most usable of the three. My fifth shot was an image I took of bioluminescent algae at one of the nearby beaches, and it proved to be a real test of the app's capabilities. Luminar's Noiseless AI did badly because it introduced some weird artifacting in the ocean water. It also left behind some banding in the skies, and also left behind a decent margin of noise. Both DXO Deep Prime and TopazLabs DeNoise did a great job removing all of the pixelated noise from both the ocean and the sky. DXO did a better job of retaining the source image's colours, staying much more faithful to the raw file than Topaz. However, Topaz still edged it for me because it did a far superior job with the detail. If you compare the areas around the rock at the bottom of the image, it looks blurred and out of shape in the DXO app, but if you look at that same area in Topaz, it's as crisp as the original RAW. My final test shot's an interesting one because actually I really like the grain in the background of this image. However, removing it will be a good test because it also needs to retain sharpness on the lorikeet. This time round, DXO Photolab did an incredible job of removing the noise from the background areas of the image, although the subject of the photo is definitely softer than Topaz. Noiseless AI did a decent job of maintaining sharpness in the main subject, but some banding in the background is evident. Topaz did a brilliant job of maintaining sharpness while removing noise in both background and bird. However, it also heavily darkened the background while the other applications did not. It's an easy fix in Lightroom, but I'd expect it to have a bit more respect for the dynamic light range in the original image. So I'm going to chalk this one up as a win for Photolab. Alright, so if we tally up the scores, we can see that Noiseless AI scored 1 win, Photolab Deep Prime scored 2 wins, and TopazLabs DeNoise scored 3. This test is of course highly subjective, and my perception of the best result may well differ from those of another photographer using some other batch of test shots. That being said, the central issue that I encountered with all of the various apps was the ability to balance noise removal whilst retaining detail. I actually rendered multiple versions of the images in this test in each of the different denoising apps in order to get the best result for each one, and then spent a silly amount of time flipping between the 3 different versions before choosing a winner. In some cases, turning Photolab Deep Prime's luminance slider all the way up resulted in the best option, and in other cases keeping around 40% worked best. And the takeaway from that is to not simply accept what the AI software recommends, but to test a few iterations yourself. And that holds true for all of the apps. In Topaz I tried all the denoise options, but raw and low light came out best in all cases in my 6 test images. And in Luminar Neo's Noiseless AI I tried all 3 strengths, low, medium and high, and tested the different outcomes from increasing detail and sharpness retention. I think it's also worth pointing out that Noiseless AI was considerably slower than the other 2 apps, taking upwards of 1 minute to run its denoising algorithms. It's very early days for this software, however, and I've got no doubt that Skylum will optimise it over the coming months, just as they did with all of the innovative AI features in their app. In terms of speed on the other apps, both Deep Prime and Topaz rendered the scene in a few seconds, with Deep Prime being the quicker of the two. So I feel happy that I've given all of these apps a fair shake and a good chance to demonstrate their relative strengths by iterating different outputs from each and by using different kinds of photos to test them with. Noiseless AI did best on the image of the birds, but struggled with balancing sharpness and noise removal in all of the other tests. I was extremely impressed by DXO Deep Prime's noise removal. It consistently had the best noise removal, but its aggressive code also meant that the images were often a bit too soft for my taste. TopazLabs consistently gave me the most usable and well-rounded results, combining excellent detail retention with noise removal. Remember though that the TopazLabs enhancement apps are single-use tools, whereas you get a full-blown photo editor with Photolab and Luminar Neo. If I didn't already have Lightroom and Photoshop, this would definitely have an influence on what I bought. And that'll do it for this video, which turned out to be a lot longer than I'd originally envisaged. Do you own any of this software? How do you find them for denoising your photographs? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, the old thumbs ups down there to prod the YouTube algorithm into giving me more airtime. And if you've got value from this content, consider subscribing for more photography related videos like this in your YouTube feed. Till the next time guys, ta-ta. Because it faithfully rendered the sky without removing TopazLabs. Fucking hell, come on.